I want to talk about some ideas I'm having, some theories, and why I'm theorizing on them, and so many other things. Because, well, first of all, I think about these things, and what motivates me to think about so much is suffering. Suffering makes me do it. Mental and emotional pain and how to stop it. Which I feel like I'm being whipped into learning these things mentally and emotionally, or whatever, but because, if I don't try to figure it out, then eventually I suffer for it, or whatever. But what I want to talk about is relativity. Relativity. Which relativity is the proof that nothing is real, and the only thing that is real is nothing. Because based mathematically, let's go that way. Because everything has its opposite in a relative universe. You combine the two opposites. You take one and you take negative one, you put them together, and you're back at zero. Zero is like, can also be a point in a three-dimensional reality, right? Let's say, no matter how far you move, how many miles you move in one direction, you move the same amount of miles in the opposite direction, exact opposite direction, in a three-dimensional space, you will be back where you started, right? You'll be back at zero, But what they don't tell you is that, or at least my theory, goddamn, I gotta smoke. It's first cigarette of the day, First cigarette of the day. Which is, right now it's going on 5:25 in the morning. And I think there's something that some people know, that isn't common knowledge, and I think that the zero also has its negative, because I think it's like a negative mirror, or lens at least, where they say zero is nothing, and negative zero is indeterminate or undefined. That's what they say on Google, right? Indeterminate or undefined, and or undefined, I guess. But I think because there is such a concept as negative zero, simply by taking a zero and putting a negative symbol in front of it, that there is a universe relative to this one. It's like, where everything is that would be where everything it changes places, but in a mirrored fashion, just like where there were one from the point of view of this universe, where one would be positive and negative one would be negative. From the point of view of negative zero or a relative universe to this one, one would become negative one. Negative zero would even become just zero again, from the flip side of it. From, maybe that's where they get the saying or the idea in Through the Looking Glass with that Alice in Wonderland thing, or take me to the other side, or break on through to the other side, the flip-flop, I think there is a universe relative to this one, and I think things are moving in a negative direction in this universe. In our experience, our existence, I think things are moving in a negative direction. And I think that's because our universe is expanding. I think it's expanding in a negative direction from zero. Maybe it's moving one direction relative to another universe, which is moving in the opposite direction. But because we seem to be moving in a negative direction, perhaps this relative universe is moving in a positive direction. And if this universe ever does contract, it'll be moving in a positive direction. And these are just ideas, right? And this relative universe, once it begins to contract in the opposite direction of the direction we're contracting, it would be moving in a negative direction, right? From the point of zero and negative zero, which are just a reflection of each other. Like what do they call it? The Big Bang Theory came from, this entire relative universe is not actual, okay? Based on the fact that it is relative. And and perhaps even zero, based on this theory, is not real. But within each universe, zero is potential, is where creation comes from, It is not creation. It is zero, the starting point, where everything comes from, Which, and because we live in a relative universe, I think that's why everything that has a brain is pretty much a two-hemisphere brain, right? Pretty much. So they can observe both relative aspects of this universe, But I think everyone's on a little journey, to come to some understanding. Anyone who exists, but and this is the point I'm at, and I'm sure there are people way ahead of me with a much clearer picture and understanding, and I think that explains why we have opposing forces in this universe, and like and Democrats and straight people and gay people. I think gay people would love to be in this relative universe where they're in control, and they just seem to be taking over this one, you know. And perhaps they're migrating to this universe, or people are changing based on the understanding that, you know, soon maybe the universe will start contracting because maybe they're jumping a ship or something. I don't know, but whatever. So tired of homosexuals ruining everything, taking everything. They don't create anything, you know? They don't contribute. What they do is things like feminine women, they take, you know? They take over, they control, they manipulate. And they can't really create on their own. You know, you can take a guy and a good woman, put them together and make a kid, but neither one can do it on their own. You know, but women are takers. You know, because men have always been the providers, and women will be more than happy to take what men provide, and some of them are starting to take control, you know, of what men have done, what they have achieved. You know, especially like you look at Marvel Comics as an example of a franchise which has been, you know, taken over, and you look at what it's becoming. You know, it's all sensual and feminized and has no real heroic spirit. Just, you know, it kind of just has the drudging, you know, we must survive, must go on. You know, there's no good things about it anymore. It's just about like the spirit of it is gone, you know, and they take over. They're taking over all these things that, you know, have been created and achieved by, you know. I mean, that's what I'm seeing in like movies and like the media. It's like they're not coming up with new things that people say, oh, wait, that's cool, we want to do that. Instead, they're taking things that people already like and taking them over and controlling them, you know. Changing the people who trying to change the audience or the whatever into I mean, take Roseanne, the show, for example. It started out as a show about a working family, and everybody could relate, and they're like, oh, this is a good show. And once people really start getting into it, then they start focusing on homosexuals. That's the big, they introduced that in a major way, you know? It's like, what, it's like, did they plan it that way? Or is it just that whoever's behind this homosexual thing and this feminist thing are just trying to change things? Or that things are changing that way, and so a lot of people aren't resisting it, you know. I don't know, but they're not contributing. They're just taking. There's nothing they can do. They are not creators. They are not actual. I don't think. because they just take what has been created, what has become real, and try to take it over and control it and change it, you know. But yeah. The reason I'm so interested, the reason I'm so interested in this idea of negative zero is the potential that everything could come to an end, and which, you know, in a relative universe where everything is suffering, where there is suffering, where I suffer, the end is quite appealing. You know, like Jim Morrison said in one of his songs, "This is the end, my only friend, the end," you know. And I don't want to exist beyond the end. I don't want there to be an existence beyond the end, because of all the suffering I've been through, you know. Because if its existence alone allows suffering to exist, then there should not be existence at all, good or bad, if it'll get rid of the bad. You know what I'm saying? The good ain't worth the bad, in my opinion. And there is a lot of bad. And a lot of, in this reality, the bad hides. You know, you don't see it, you don't hear it. Well, you don't hear it outright. They will hint at it, and you will see things that, you know, don't seem to be very good, and you won't be able to believe your eyes, and you won't be able to believe what you're hearing, because they are so bad in relationship to what, you know, what it's like, what we actually see most of the time. And here, there's terrible things going on, you know, covertly or in the background, or, you know, that nobody wants to talk about. You know, terrible, terrible things. You know. And I wonder if there's something relative to the relative universes, which, you know, like 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 the two relative universes are some sort of reaction chamber to generate some kind of energy or something, or do process something, or do something for something which is beyond both relative universes, you know, like a third party, you know. Because relative denotes pairs of two opposites, you know. But what about the observer of those two opposites, you know? To see